want to welcome you all to the year 2022. It's a new year, and a lot of people are celebrating its birth, and I'm also celebrating its birth. Knowing as I know that last year was very eventful, especially in Swaziland, where a lot of things have happened. There was a political earthquake in Swaziland, which almost resulted in a lot of very different changes. It didn't change anything in the end, though. But I think this is most especially due to the interference, or rather to the intervention of SADC. SADC came and it appeared like they were going to negotiate or mediate, then they postponed the negotiations. And as I say this, the negotiations are still pending. We are still expecting some negotiations. Although I have to put in what I believe here, that the negotiations won't bring anything.
In 2005, the new constitution was finally signed. But its Bill of Rights was not respected, and the king's power remained unchanged.
Because Mswati, he said after Ikwala he's going to have negotiations. He was trying to postpone, but now that he has had Ikwala, he has to have these negotiations like he promised. And I don't know whether the opposition or the whole opposition groupings are going to go into the negotiation with the hope of coming out with anything, or are they going to be participants in this negotiation? Because I think they were putting forward a demand that he should first free the incarcerated MPs, and maybe all the other, let me add here, he has also free all the other political prisoners, because when we are mentioning political prisoners, it's not only the two, which is where I blame this opposition or pro-democracy leaders, where they only mention two people. There are a lot of political prisoners in prison right now in Swaziland, and it will look like they lack representation when every time these leaders mention people who are incarcerated, they only mention two people, and they also mention Gauzela, who is being hunted by the regime, who is being hunted by the king, and that's AD, who's also being handed by the king. But there are a lot of political prisoners which we need to mention, because they need us when they are inside there. They need the support of everyone. They need everyone to stand behind them and maybe represent them, and maybe say out something about them, because they are there now. We can't just keep quiet about them, and there are so many. So they mentioned that they have to free these two first, which I think will not happen, because what Mswati will argue is that these two people, their cases are going through the court system. They can only be freed by the courts. I don't know, because he's an absolute leader. I don't know whether he's going to ask the courts to free these two so that they can have negotiations. But knowing Mswati and the way he views the opposition leaders, that they are a bunch of dacha smokers, he might not even consider to whatever demands that they might put forward. Like he's always done, he has never considered to anything that they say. Right now they are saying, they were also demanding that unless these people were freed, the schools were not going to open, or schools were not going to close, and things like that. He never seemed to listen, or rather respect what they say at any point in time. I think this stems from the belief that he has that there are no opposing political parties in Swaziland, because by law, by constitution, the opposition parties are prohibited in Swaziland. They are literally, or rather, speaking in reality terms, in real terms, there are no opposition political parties in Swaziland, because their constitution does not allow it. So as I speak today, as I speak now, Mulungis Makanya, who is the leader of Kudemo, People's United Democratic Movement, is saying that if the people, I think people are getting it wrong the way you were saying it. There, some people, make comments without full information. He's not saying he is going to present this as a party. He's saying if the people of Swaziland, in their political groupings, in their pro-democracy groupings, do allow for a constitutional democracy, then they won't accept the I mean, not constitutional democracy, really do take, or rather do accept a constitutional monarchy. They are not going to accept Mswati as the representation of the monarchy. They are asking the royal family to choose someone who is acceptable, someone who is more sensitive to the needs of the people, someone who is good. So what they are saying is that Mswati himself is not acceptable. He's such a bad person. He has represented himself very badly. He is not acceptable to anyone. He has had such a very bad record with and when it comes to matters of administering his country, when it comes to matters of governance, he has failed dismally. So they won't take his name, they won't take him into the new government or into the new formation that might be there. That is what is basically Mlungisi Makanya is saying. He's not saying that that is what they are advocating for, but it is a choice that the Swazi people will have to make, and if they make such a choice, they will never take Mswati himself. That's Makositive will not be acceptable to them. Which brings me to the point that I want to discuss today, that if I am to speak personally to Makositive and tell him today what I try to explain to him his position, I'll tell him that, please, you are still sitting there in power. The ball is still totally in your court. And you have all the 4 aces, and the game is yours to lose. You are still the leader. You are still an absolute monarchy there in Swaziland. You still have absolute powers. Nobody is going to stand against you if you say anything. Why can't you make changes now? Changes that can even make it difficult for these opposition parties to really gain traction in Swaziland. This is your chance. This is what you can do now in Swaziland. You can do this if you want to do it. Why isn't it a choice for you to better the lives of the Swazis? Because let me put this forward to you like this. The people in Swaziland represented to everyone, or rather it has been put forward, or rather it has been pronounced to a lot of people like they are just fighting for democracy. That is the right to choose the people who will govern them, and then the government of the people by the people. But I don't think that is the point. The point is that the people of Swaziland are fighting for fair distribution of wealth, the fair distribution of the money, fair distribution of the country's resources, which has been failing since you assumed power in 1986. Some people say you started very well, but eventually they say power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I think eventually you were corroded and corrupted by power.
Currently, the concern and dissatisfaction with DBO is that it is now practically a private piggy bank that is being used by the royalty and the institutions of the monarchy to basically contribute to the funding of the lifestyle of the monarchy.
Now you are blinded by power, not only corrupted by power. I think there are advisors who would even stand and advise you that what you are doing is wrong, and you still turn a blind eye to them. And some of them you even persecute, some of them you even murder. I understand that you murder some of them simply because they've tried to put forward some very progressive ideas to you, which means you have been blinded by power, totally corrupted by power. Power has made you totally blind to anything good that you can do for the Swazi people.
When you speak to the people, you can feel that the people are living under a poverty line, which in many cases we feel we have to do something. And it's always very sad when you see a lot of them speak about their lives, how difficult it is, how difficult they are coping, looking after their families and so on. And then you see sometimes that you wish to help them, but funds are always not enough.
And yet, they say that when you are living a life, the only thing that can make a life very fulfilling is the things that you do to other people. Now that you are not doing anything for the Swazi people, what is really fulfilling to you, Mr. Makositive? How is your life an entertaining life if you are just doing things for yourself and nothing for the state, nothing for the common good of the people, nothing at all? How is that life going to be fulfilling? Now hallucinating, Makositive. You mean which funds are you talking about? Which currency? Which money? Which funds? If you are saying the funds are not enough, Exactly what is your point? You are not even embarrassed by your own words. Your own words are not an embarrassment to you. You have money to buy jets, you have money to buy luxury cars, but you don't have money to help your own people. Which funds are you talking about? This is the blindness that I'm talking about. Your mind is clouded by the luxuries that surround you. You don't even see things. You can't make out the woods from the trees because of now the luxury is too much for you. This money that you are spending is just clouding every piece of judgment that you might make. It's very surprising that you can make an evaluation of the lives of people that you lead like this. Right now, I think what you are saying is that you can run away from Swaziland at any time because you are still, remember, there's that 10 billion is not 10 million, 10 billion that you are holding in trust for the nation of Swaziland. And I believe that you are saying, even if I run away, I've got so much money to spend. And I'm telling you now that nothing would compare to what you are having now. You have power. You can do whatever you want. You're in absolute monarchy, and for you to run away to another country and live as a fugitive for the rest of your life is never going to be fulfilling, Mr. Makositi. Turn around the fortune of the people while you are there. You are the incumbent, and you are an absolute money. You can make decisions. You can even say from that 10 billion, I'm going to take 5 billion and use it to fix everything in Swaziland. How is it to fix everything in Swaziland that is not working well financially? And with the 5 billion, you can fix almost everything, I'm telling you.
In November 2011, Swaziland was hit by a budget crisis, with government struggling to pay public sector workers. Swaziland asked the African Development Bank and then South Africa for a loan, but Mswati's government rejected the conditions which demanded economic and political reform.
The International Monetary Fund, they said Swaziland has money to deal with your crisis. Just access the bill. 80% of your problems will be solved. The money that you have, the bill is richer than the state. But because the bill, the safe haven of the monarchy, it was an untouchable.
So it's true then that you don't care for the livelihood of the people of Swaziland. You don't care about their welfare. You don't care a hoot about half the survive. TBO is now a safe haven for the king and for the royal household. What does that mean? That you have to keep some money aside while the people of Swaziland, their money aside so that you can take care of the smaller things and the stupid things of the royal household while your people are suffering. So when we attack you, when we come hard on you, when we want your death, nothing short of the cutting of your head, don't think we are stupid, because you are very cruel. You are a monster. If you are like that, you are nothing short of a monster, because a monster would even be better because it's a monster. It's not a human being. When we come hard on you, when people are attacking you left, right, and center, they are totally justified. How do you really survive? How do you live with this? The nation of Swaziland is rich. And it is just at your beck and call for you to make it a richer country. And you have suspended Vision 2022, not because Swaziland doesn't have money. Swaziland has money, a lot of it. But you are putting it aside for a time when you run away. Running away and living as a fugitive, living all the respect and all the honor, all those things that come with the power. Really, you will be living like a slave, and you don't even see it because your hand is cockeyed. Your head is screwed up. There's something wrong inside there. You have been living a lie all along. You can't live in reality right now by helping your own people. And the nation of Swaziland will really have a running stomach for the next 5 or 6 years if that they were going to receive a stimulus of, say, 5 billion. Why don't you make a decision like that just to save your face, to save your life? And I'm saying this, I'm not meaning to say that you just do those as temporary measures. You do it as a thing, as a matter of fixing almost everything that is wrong with Swaziland right now. Then we won't talk of Mulungis, we won't talk of Gauzela, we won't talk of any other political party trying to come and challenge you, because you will be unchallengeable, because once the people's lives begin to change, and they can see a permanent change in their lives, they will never support you. Remember, Masuku said, People are crying for democracy. Are they going to eat that democracy? Are they going to eat the democracy? And I laughed, but I realized that he was very right. People don't eat democracy, and there are so many countries here in Africa that have got democracy, but that most people are really starving. People are suffering there. Democracy is not the answer to the people suffering. Maybe democracy is an answer to only political parties, because there will be many parties, and those parties will be eating. They will be feasting on whatever is there, and the common good of the people, if the democracy is not run very well, it might not even benefit the people. So the crux of the matter in Swaziland is that there should be equal distribution of waste. Why don't you start distributing it now? This is my advice to you, Makosi TV. That why you start now. This is the beginning of the year. You make it a resolution for 2022 that I want to distribute whatever, because you can just issue a directive to take. Forgive my economics, because I might not be economically versed to understand if the money is in trust for the people of Swaziland. Are you able to take it? But I think it's your money, and then you can take it. If you can just issue it, because you don't have red tape. There's no bureaucracy that affects you as an absolute monarch. Whatever you say stands. And yeah, I'm appealing to you that you give some directives that will give Swaziland money. I don't know if my economics is. Why is that money 10 billion? It has been there for quite a long time. I'm told that you moved it from Switzerland to Saudi Arabia, and it's in your personal name. And maybe you are saying I can live well outside this Swaziland country, even if they chase me away, even if I run away. It won't compare with what is happening to you now. Your family is there in Swaziland. It will be preserved by just a few directives, and the Swaz people will be okay, and everyone will be smiling. And these pro-democracy leaders, pro-democracy parties, who have a tough time trying to depose you, they won't. It will be very difficult. You then have built a nice legacy, a very good legacy for your children. So your many children, I think they are 30-something, if not 40-something now. What legacy do you want to leave for those children? A legacy of a father who is so corrupt, a father who is so self-centered, who doesn't think outside the box. If you think outside the box, you have to leave a nice legacy for you. You preserve the monarchy, you preserve this this hereditary post, and your children might rule long after you, because the legacy will be preserved. And you are failing to do such a small thing. You want to use that money, you don't live forever. You know, some people keep a lot of money aside because they think that they will live forever. No one lives forever. Death is there for everyone. You die and you leave those large amounts of money there buried somewhere, and someone is going to use them. Instead of using it, that money, and build a legacy for your children, all your children, and for the name of your father and your forefathers, and make sure that it's preserved and it is a good name, that it is a legend that people will always cry for, people will always celebrate long after you have gone. You don't even think about that. You don't even imagine something like that. That amount of money in its large quantities, what are you hoping that you do with it when you run around trying to borrow money when Swaziland has got a lot of money elsewhere? I'm really shocked by your behavior, and which is why I don't sympathize with you when people start attacking you. I don't, and I join them, vigorously join them, and viciously join them. And because the attack is justified, you are just a monster. Because it's not about political parties, actually. It's not about these pro-democrats, progressive. Some people call them progressive parties. It's about the welfare of the Swazi people. It's about the common good of the people in Swaziland, the bread and butter issues of Swaziland. That is what is the matter at the moment in Swaziland. Because if you have really been listening to what people have ever been saying to you, is that you are eating a lot. You have got a chunk, a very large chunk, or almost all the chunk of the national cake, and everyone else has almost nothing. And you are doing nothing about it, and you do nothing about it. You seem not to care. One of your the favorite wife was saying, you think that you are doing a lot for the people, and because you are doing a lot for the people, you need to live very well so that as a payment for doing something for the people or whatever you're doing for the people, you need to look after your own life very well. But if that amounts to you taking almost everything, because in the assumption or on the grounds that you are doing a lot for the people of Swaziland, and yet in all eventuality, when you look at it right now, you are doing nothing for the people of Swaziland. They are just scratching on the surface there. Rather, they are finding it difficult to make ends meet. And yet you are rewarding yourself with almost everything. If you look at it like that, Mr. Mswati, you might save yourself a lot of trouble, I'm telling you. You might save yourself a lot of suffering. Right now, you have suspended Vision 2022. I think when you postulated Vision 2022, you really knew that it might work if you wanted it to work. But then your willpower, your resolve, your enthusiasm to implement Vision 2022, the vision that by 2022, Swaziland will be a first world country, and it will have all the characteristics and the aspects of a first world country. You understood that because Swaziland is such a small country. It's smaller than Joburg when you compare to population density. You are just a leader. You are just like when we have to compare a country with a city. Joburg, I think, is about 5 million people. You have only 1.4, 1.3, maybe an average of 1.3. Maybe Joburg is 5 times bigger than your country. So you are smaller than some most mayors in Swaziland. Most mayors in SA there. They are bigger than you. They have got a lot of work to do compared to the job that you do in Swaziland. Because administering Swaziland should not be such a big issue for you because it's a small country with a very small population. Even physically, it's about 18,000 square meters. That's small. In fact, it's one of the smallest, only bigger than Gambia on mainland Africa. So how come we are failing to administer such a small country, Mswati? You are one of the world's greatest failures because this country, it was supposed to be the shining star of Africa. Not because you are putting a lot of effort, but by the mere size of the country, it will have been very easy for you to administer it. It will be a shining star in Africa. But you've made it look like everything is so difficult because when it comes to using money, you are just extravagant, you are careless, you don't understand the principles of money. And when it comes to using money, you only think about yourself and you don't think about the common good of the people. So you throw away Vision 2022, you remove the adverts, you removed all the banners. And now what? We are in 2022, what? What's the start? Are you still the leader? Are you still the king of Swaziland? Or what is your plan? Because I'm tired of speaking about pro-democracy, these progressive leaders. Because they can make very little change unless and until they've toppled you, which is proving to be very difficult. They can't make any landmark changes in Swaziland, but you are there right now. You can make any change that you want, and you can't make changes in Swaziland by just fixing a few roads. You really have to think hard and have a lot of resolve, a lot of enthusiasm, determination to change things in Swaziland. And because you're an absolute ruler, a democratic government might not be as effective as you are. If you want to be effective, you can be effective because whatever you say passes, whatever you say is law, and people will do what you command. Whatever you say your word is their command, and you have powers that no other African country leader has. So which means that the failure of Swaziland is something that you have planned, because if you had planned for its success, Swaziland will be successful because you have the final say. You can't blame anyone because most of the selections that you disguise as elections are still selections that you make yourself to make sure that Swaziland becomes progressive. Or maybe you just don't care. Do you, Mswati, do you care about Swaziland? Do you care about your own country, the country to whom you are leader? And when you buy yourself those cars, some of them is ridiculous. The number of cars that you have there. Let us say someone will say you have about 50 or even 150. Someone say 150. Some of these figures I don't even believe. Of the same model of car, for what? The same model of 150 cars. I don't believe it. Then you, hey, it's ridiculous. But you are very well known for self-indulgence. But if it was your own money, of course, if you work for money and you indulge yourself, it's acceptable because we say it's the fruits of your hard work. But this is money for the people of Swaziland. This is man for the people. This is man for the nation. You have to wake up. You have to open your eyes and rub them right now at the beginning of this year. Rub your eyes very tight and please wake up from your slumber. Wake up from your deep sleep. And you must realize that things can change at any time. The state of affairs in Swaziland is so volatile, you might not even realize, because people are saying you dropped after school, so your interpretation of events in Swaziland might not be that good. Your analysis of situations might not be that learned, might not be that advanced. And since dropping from school, have you been reading other books also, making sure that you advance, you open up your mind, you open up your thinking, you think better than you were thinking in 1986 when you were crowned the king of Swaziland, so that maybe the decisions that you make are informed, because most of the decisions that you are making right now, they are not informed. We even wonder why this king is. I saw a journalist asking you, do you want a plane? I think I have to include that video on my video. The reaction that you gave when they asked, do you need a jet, do you need a jet, King Mswati the Third? Your reaction shows that you are just dumb. Swaziland is being led by a very dumb, a retard. You sounded like a retard because it was a serious question which was given to you, and the reaction that you gave was of a idiotic human being, not even suitable to be a leader of even a village. When I looked at it, I was very angry with you. And here you are. Please read some books, advance your learning, advance your understanding of situations. This situation that you are in, you are the creator. You are the one who really postulated it. It's self-created. It's all those people, Gauzela, Mlungisi, and all the other people who are fighting you, they have justification in doing so. They are justified because they can't just stand and watch a fool bring their country to the knees. They can't. What would this say about the whole Swazi population, that they are just a nation of fools who can just watch a fool taking their nation to the ground? No, some people have to stand up and fight. And if you are like adamant and rigid and arrogant like you are being right now, I think people should just fighting you in whatever form they want, in whatever way they want. And this is not going to end very well for you. It's not going to end very well for you, and things will change for the worst, especially for you. It might change for the worst for your family, for the people that are working for you and with you. And in the end, you are going to be an embarrassment, not only to yourself, but an embarrassment. You have already been an embarrassment to the nation of Swaziland. And people are even quitting. Do we need, when they say we don't need the king anymore, it shows the level and degree of anger that they have towards you, not rather the kingship. They can bring a king there who might be very progressive, who might even contribute a lot to the development or rather the progress of the kingdom. But what they are saying, they will wake up one day later, those who are saying we don't need a king, then they realize they need a king. What they actually did not need or what they did not want is you, Makositi. They don't want you. They didn't want you. They didn't like you. And that anger exploding like that at this moment is clouding their judgment. They are actually concluding that they don't want any king. And yet I feel that a constitutional monarchy is going to be the best for Swaziland. You can't just throw the king away just like that.
Swaziland, famed guardian of African tradition.
The way your country, the cultural depth and cultural background of Swaziland is one country whose identity is so tied to the king, which is why I'm appealing to you to be the one responsible, to be the one. Change right now, you can change, because if you become a good king right now, it cancels all the bad that you have been doing, because anything that comes afterwards replaces and cancels all the bad that has happened. You know, people are judged by what they do at the end, not what they have done before. You know, before, people are angry with you for the things that you have done, but if you cancel and replace those things that you have done before with the good things starting now, Swaziland and yourself, you know, people would look back and say, this is the best king we have ever had. And they will never condemn you. And you know what they say? They say fools will never take advice. And yet the wise will listen and gain understanding. If you look at the philosophers, that's what they say. Fools, anyone who is foolish doesn't want to take any advice because he thinks he knows everything. And there's no foolish man on earth than a man who thinks that they know everything. Anyone who thinks that they know everything is a fool. And I think you have acted as a fool because you think you know everything. What do you know? If you sleep with the 15 wives, you think you are better than all the other human beings. If you can pick a virgin at the beginning of, every year you have a right to pick a virgin, you think you are reason better than everyone else. I think the cultural situation, cultural setup of Swaziland also has made you think that you are a superhuman being. You know nothing. You are just, maybe worse than any of the people who are in Swaziland. What makes you think that you are better when you are failing to govern a small country like that? Swaziland is so small, very small. It's one of the smallest. They describe it as a tiny country in Southern Africa. Tiny. You have failed to rule a tiny country. That's what you have failed to do. Look at Rwanda there. The thing that he's a dictator, that guy, Kagame. Almost with his powers, almost similar to your powers. But I think your powers are even more. He's developing his country. And people are giving him all the respect. Look, we admire what he's doing. And we don't care whether he's a dictator or not. People hardly talk about it. And when they try to talk about it, they are hushed. It's like they say, please don't talk about this, because what this guy is doing is good for the whole country, it's good for the people. You can do the same thing. Say that if people, when everyone mentioned that you are an absolute ruler, an absolute king, you're an absolute monarchy, no one would be interested in pursuing a subject like that, because people always look at the common good. What's good for the people? I don't know, I've tried to explain this thing to you, Makosi TV, but if you are going to try and do it in half measures, or try to do it to side you, to hoodwink people into thinking that you are doing something, it's not going to work. You have to do real progress. You have to do real change. Change that will affect their heart and minds and the core of the livelihood of the people of Swaziland. Don't even try to pretend that you are making changes. The changes, if you are going to make them, they have to be real, and they have to be felt by the people, by the Swazi people. They must feel that something has happened and there has been real change. They will notice it even as you get started, as you implement it. They will realize it. You and your Taiwanese, of course, the Taiwan government said that it is going to revamp the schools that have been banned, but that won't be enough. That government wants you to stay in power. Ask them for more. And take that, half of that 5 billion that you hold in trust for the nation of this one. And please just try to correct me if that money cannot be used. And if it can be used, what is the use of having 10 billion just stashed up somewhere in individuals' name? What's the use? Well, you, Makosi TV, you have got a right to go and say, that 10 billion that we have, I want 5 billion right now. And then you don't buy any jet or what. You just come and juice it, you just put it into your economy. just make sure that you look at the areas that are affecting the Swazi people and make sure that those areas, everything gets fixed. You are the government, you are everything. You are Makositibe, you are everything. You are fucking everything. You are everything. And you can do anything you want. And why these delays? And what I wonder about is, you think people will fight you and then they won't win. You are, remember, you are the only constitutional monarch that is left in Africa, if not in the whole world. I mean, the absolute, not constitutional monarch, what am I saying? You are the only absolute leader, absolute king who is left around the world. In Africa, we don't have any in Africa, just for you. So you are leading a dinosaur kind of kingdom. The oldest, most archaic, most ancient, most old-fashioned form of government. That is what you are having in Swaziland. And you need to, for people to really marvel at it and really admire it, you need to be doing things to make sure that you protect its image. And when you do bad things, when you do bad governance, people then start looking at this model of government, this old-fashioned government, and say, well, it doesn't have any place in the 21st century. It doesn't have any. It's out of place. It's out of shape. It's misplaced. We need to get rid of it. We need to take it out. But listen, those who really are a real leader will listen to everything, even from people that he never should listen. He should be listening right now. And I'm trying to advise you. I always try to look at the pro-democracy leader, Gauzela. I like Gauzela a lot. But here I am. I don't care about Gauzela, actually. I don't care about you. I don't care about Mlungisi. I don't care about any political leaders. Because I know politicians. Politicians will pretend that they are doing things for the common good. Because they love people. Their love for the people is the one that is making them do whatever it is they are doing. And yet, the motives of a politician is usually very selfish. They are usually very selfish motives. I don't know. Maybe there are some politicians out there who are really genuinely concerned about people. But they say politics is a dirty game. And once you have entered into politics, you become dirty yourself. You can't play with mud and have clean hands. So I don't care for politicians, actually. In the long run, what they are actually doing is just building their own personal profiles. And if you are lucky, someone will build their own personal profile and maybe benefit the people in the end. So when I'm saying this, I'm saying we are not preferring Gauzela because he's charismatic, because he's handsome, or because he's a singer. We are preferring him because we think he might bring the change that can change Swaziland. And if you can bring the change that can change Swaziland, starting now, we will prefer you. Why would we hate you? We might even forget. People might even forget everything. You know how easily people forget. People forget very easily. And they can even forget about what you have done. About more than 40 people have died, maybe 100. The figure is not very certain. They might forget about that. They will forget about that, let me assure you. So start now at the beginning of this year, make changes, do everything. We will still support the pro-democracy groupings because we believe that those people are there. We can't put pressure on you. They can put pressure on you. And if you are sharp up, if you are smart upstairs, you really need to be doing things right now that you have never done before. Make changes that you have never made before, and go take a completely different trajectory than you have ever taken before. So that your position and the lives of people of Swaziland is totally changed. We want to admire that country. Already people admire the country because of the culture. It has got so many resources. But because you think it belongs to you, I think you got, for me to defend you, you got to that position when you were too young. You were only 18. When you became the king, you were only 18. I think somewhere along the way, your age and everything has worked against you. But you need to wake up. You are not a young kid anymore. You know, say, I've made some mistakes in the past. In the past, I was floundering. You want to show off what? Why do you want to show off? You show off your country, not to show off some cars, some jets and what. People only look at you and think you are a very foolish man when you buy jets, when you buy these luxurious cars, and yet your people are suffering. Who is going to admire you for that? That is what makes me think you are a very foolish man. You think people will admire if a father is driving a very expensive car and the children are suffering at home. You think we will admire that? We are Africans. We admire what you do for your family, what you do for people around you. That is what gives you respect and admiration, and not this foolish show off.
As the drought-stricken, troubled country plunged into debt, the king decided it was appropriate for him to buy a royal jet and many other luxuries. Parliament voted against the purchase of the plane after learning that cabinet had diverted aid money to pay the deposit, but the Prime Minister overrode Parliament. Mswati got his jet in 2011. In 2009, he was recorded as one of the top 15 richest royals in the world. Life expectancy had dropped to a shocking 31 years. People still respected the king, though he showed little respect for them. Swazis remained the only people in Africa who have no right of association and no right to political parties.
Are you still behaving like a kid, like you were when you were throned? I mean, when you are put on that throne. You need to behave differently. You are no longer a kid anymore. You are a very mature individual. 50 plus years, that's a mature person. Look after the people that you are in. This God will put you in that position, and if you don't justify your position there, if you don't justify your existence there, He's going to take you out. I'm telling you, your days are numbered. You might not believe it because, you know, they say pride comes before a fall. Was it King Solomon who said that pride comes before a fall? The fools think they are very secure, just like Mugabe in Zimbabwe. He was thinking that Miss Smith before him, he also believed that he was permanent. He said, not in 1,000 years. That's what Smith said. And how long did it take for him to be? Before long, it wasn't even 20 years. He was off. You might be nesting the same feeling. You might be nesting the same philosophy. You might have the same philosophy, but just look around you. You know, dictatorships of your kind don't last for very long. Idi Amin, whatever, mention them. Just look around. Read. That's why I ask you to read. Read, my man. Read. I think if we're reading, Swaziland will be better off. Will be in a very much better position than it is right now. This is We Africa, please. I'm being a bit emotional here because I'm realizing that time is running out. And when time is running out, the suffering of the people is the one that is perpetuated. And the person who is in a position to change everything right now is not even the pro-democracy leaders, nor the progressive leaders. Of course, people say, no, there's no hope in Mswati. No, Mswati, Makositi cannot change our lives now. It's too late. No, nothing is too late. And nothing is impossible in life. When you're dealing with human beings, even the ones that you trust and say, these people are going to bring nice things for us, it's just a hope. Nothing is guaranteed in life, you know. You can't guarantee that Gwazela is going to bring us a nice Swaziland. It's something that you imagine, but that might never happen, even if you become the leader. Mlungu is something that you imagine again, because the politicians are very disappointing. In the end, you discover that you must never put your hopes in a politician. Put your hopes in what you do, and if Makositi right now changes and starts rebuilding Swaziland from the remnants, or rather from the destruction that he has brought on it, it might be better off than it might be with the end of the pro-democracy leaders. And democracy is no guarantee of success or progress or anything. It's just the mentality that is fed in us by America, that they only have two parties. And how many parties do we have in Swaziland? We have 1.4, we have 1.3 million people. And America has got about what? Is it 154? 154 million. I'm not very sure about the figure. I'm just thinking about the figure now. And they've got only two parties. So they will encourage you to fight through your parties, through everything, so that you do nothing, so that nothing changes. And you think, well, democracy can be just a foolish concept sometimes. It can bring distraction. Thank you so much. This is We Africa. Thank you so much, please. Thank you for subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Please do subscribe. And I want to see your comments down there on the comments. Thank you.